in our community, we're all about building wealth with intention. So I wanted to quickly share 4 habits that will really help you as you build wealth to just really start implementing these in 2026. In particular, if you're still coping with somewhat of a credit card hangover from the Black Friday shopping, the Christmas shopping, and all of this, research has shown that people tend to carry balances for months after the holidays, and it can really get your new year off to a really lousy start if you're coping with all of that. And so let's talk about 4 habits that will really help you build wealth. The first habit is a weekly money check-in. You know, I'm such a huge fan of this. We've talked about this before on my channel. But if you can just set aside 10, 15, 20 minutes once a week to just quickly look over your accounts, check and make sure that your bills have been paid, that you need to get paid for the week. Just really kind of take a look at everything, make a couple of payments on your credit cards as you're able to. Just check your portfolio if you are an investor and want to check on your investment portfolio. Just have a little time every single week. You could do it on the same day at the same time. Just put it on your calendar. I like to calendar block in Google. I don't know what works best for you, but I find that calendar blocking is the most efficient way. And I just have some time calendar blocked out on my schedule every single week to be able to pay bills, review my accounts. I also like to look over my credit card statements online and just make absolutely sure that there's no fraudulent charges. And that's also really helpful. The banks will usually flag this up for you, but if you can catch it sooner rather than later, it's also really great, just so that some fraudulent person isn't like running a bunch of stuff on your card and you don't find out about it till quite a bit later. But just to have that whole habit built in is very helpful, particularly if you struggle with something called money avoidance, where the idea of having to pull up your accounts is giving you like a panic attack as we speak. Like, just take a deep breath. It's okay. As you build this habit of doing a weekly check-in, you will get less and less scared of your money, because it's all about empowerment here on my channel. And so I don't want to push you into something you're not comfortable doing, obviously. So find a way to do a weekly check-in that is comfortable for you. Maybe make a cup of tea, maybe get yourself a snack. You know, it's like that concept of habit stacking. I'm sure you've heard of before other places where you pair like a less fun thing, like, you know, looking over your budget to see how you're doing for the month, with a more fun thing, like get yourself a piece of chocolate or make yourself a cup of coffee or get yourself a muffin, you know, whatever you need to do. Put your favorite playlist on in the background, kind of whatever you need to do to make it more palatable. And then as you build it in, maybe it'll become more fun over time. Maybe it won't. Because I work in finance, obviously, but even when I wasn't working in finance before, I love looking at my money. I love my little spreadsheets. It just actually makes me feel calmer sitting there and paying bills. So if you're like me, you're already enjoying it. So it can only get more fun if you put your favorite playlist on while you're doing it. If you hate your money and absolutely detest looking at your finances, that's okay too. You know, it's all about small steps. Some people just don't have the time to deal with it if they've got a very, very jam-packed schedule. That's where you can hire an accountant or a financial advisor, or perhaps both, who can do it for you. So it's all about perhaps either finding a way to do it yourself that's sustainable and fun, or find a way to outsource that task, because you don't have to do everything yourself all the time. You can outsource things if that's a more viable path for you to stay up on your finances. Anything is better than just kind of letting them run their own thing and get into this terrible, tangly, chaotic mess that just makes you stressed thinking about it. The second financial habit that will help you build wealth is to automate just one thing. So the idea here is, rather than having to remember to pay your power bill every single month, if you can set it up on auto pay, then it's out of sight, out of mind, done. It's all set. You don't have to go and manually pay the bill every single time. You can just have your bank cut them a check automatically, or however you wish to set that up. But it's just so much easier, honestly, when you have your bills set up this way. I used to miss bill payment deadlines all the time before I automated my payments, and then they charge you late fees. So on top of having to then go and pay it yourself manually, you're coping with late fees on top of it, which is really frustrating and not the way you want to spend your money, right? So really focus on how you can automate just one thing this month, whatever you want it to be in your finances. Just pick one thing. It could be a paycheck deduction. to go to your IRA or your 401k, something like that. So again, it's out of sight, out of mind. Just the more automated you can do things, the easier it is, because you don't have to remember, you don't have to find the time to do it, which is difficult for most of us with busy schedules and all of this. Even if we had the time to sit down and make contributions to our IRAs, there's just so many more things that crowd in, and it's easy to forget to save till your retirement, till you're suddenly, verging on your 50s and starting to panic. So just those automations can be extremely helpful. I have a whole book review out on James Clear's Atomic Habits, but I'll link to that in the description. But what he argues is that the best way to implement a new behavior, such as these habits that we're talking about, is to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying as you're building new habits in. So automation is just one way to make things easier for yourself. So really play around with this and see if this is something that's helpful for you. The third habit is to reduce one source of financial friction. So this could look like canceling unused subscriptions, which it's amazing how many subscriptions are out there that you're not using and they just renew every single month or every single year. And you might have an app or a streaming service or something, or even like a professional service that you're not using, and it just keeps hitting your card every year. And then sometimes once they auto renew, it's very difficult to get your money back, even if you're not even using that service anymore, say for your business. So very helpful to just review those. If there's something that's draining your budget, out it goes, get that canceled. You can consolidate your credit card use. Even if you have a bunch of credit cards, definitely keep them all open. It's really important as you build your credit history and your credit score to keep the credit cards that you do open. Just keep them open, put them in a safe place. Obviously, keep an eye on them for any fraudulent use. But just maybe consolidate your use down to 1 to maybe 2 cards. And then that way you only have 2 places you have to remember to pay bills, and not have another card that you might use sporadically, and then forget you had balances on there, and then forget to pay it, and then end up with a bunch of finance charges. That's very stressful. So just kind of to simplify things. And then if you go through your budget and really look at one recurring budget line item, and really kind of look through your budget line items and see if you really need every last one of them, or if there's something in there that you can perhaps cancel. Again, there's just so many things that bill monthly these days. And so if there's something that you can live without that will streamline your finances, reduce that financial friction, that's going to really help you as you really focus on building wealth sustainably in 2026. And then the fourth one is another habit that is really inspired by James Clear's Atomic Habits, and that is to practice an identity shift. So really practice identity-based language, identity-based thinking around money. So examples of this could look like shifting from saying, I should be better with money. I mean, how many times have you said this to yourself? I should be better with money. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. All of us can always improve, no matter how great we are. But it's easy for us to say, oh, I should do this, or I should do that, or have someone else say, you should be better with money, which is really stressful when, say, a loved one or a partner says this to us. It's just very, very important for us to leave space to remember that we are humans. We are not robots. We are humans. We make mistakes. We are always growing. We are magnificent, messy works in progress. And so very, very important to just remember this as you're shifting your identity around money. So rather than, for example, to say, I should be good with money, I should be better with money, you could just try shifting and thinking about saying something like, I'm someone who manages my money wisely and well. Something like that, however you want to put this for yourself, but just think about that rather than thinking, I should be better with money. Say, I'm someone who already manages my money so wisely. I manage my money well. I'm building wealth sustainably. I'm learning and I'm growing about my financial life and all of this. So that's an identity shift. You could also say something like, I'm someone who builds resilient money systems. I'm someone who's really great at sticking on my budget. I'm someone who thinks of my future self. And so I put aside money for retirement every single month. So again, identifying as someone who is strong in this area, whether or not you are, that's the ticket. And James Clear talks about that. I just finished filming this book review, so I'll pull this out again since I've got it right here. But James Clear is just really, really adamant that it starts with identity as you're building new habits. Really focus on, even if you have terrible money habits, really focus on thinking of yourself as someone who is really, really good with money and who's really responsible with money as you're building towards this person who you want to be. And the research really backs this up as well, that as we shift our identity, our actions then change as well. So it's really important to remember that often you don't need more financial knowledge. You know, my channel is all about empowering you and giving you the tools and giving you the resources that you need. And that's all great and that's wonderful and all well and good. But just remember that a lot of times it's not that you need more knowledge. It's that you need the strong habits to support the person you're becoming. And that's where books like Atomic Habits and other things that focus on sustainable behavior change can be really, really helpful too, because you can have all the knowledge and know-how in the world, and then still, if you're not implementing, it's not going to do you any good whatsoever. So it's about having the knowledge, but then it's about building the identity, building those habits, getting those inputs, and then starting to get those outputs that you want. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you again very soon. But in the meantime, I have another video that I think you would enjoy, and I will see you over there.